It was the final Wednesday in July, and several of Washington's top players were gathering at the Ned, a private club just around the corner from the White House. The Secretary of the Navy, John Thiel, was waiting for an elevator in the lobby when he ran across Dr. Mehmet Oz, the surgeon-turned-daytime TV celebrity who now oversees Medicare and Medicaid. Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce, was bouncing around the library bar upstairs. Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, was also roaming about up there. Charles Moran, a high-ranking Department of Energy official, sat in a brown leather recliner in the heart of this social whirl. His strange-sounding position is Associate Administrator for External Affairs at the National Nuclear Security Administration. This means that he works in the portion of the Energy Department that develops, tests, and maintains America's nuclear weapons stockpile. But it is not why government officials kept approaching his armchair to schmooze, or why several of the cabinet secretaries at the Ned that night looked to be so friendly with him. Mr. Moran, 44, is the pasha of a new power tribe in the capital, the gay men of the Trump administration. These are the A-gays. They're mostly out, proud, to work for President Trump, and have important roles within or alongside this administration. They have influence all over town, from the Pentagon to the State Department, the White House, and the Kennedy Center. We're like Visa, Mr. Moran added. Wherever you wish to be. He sipped a dirty vodka martini and looked around the room. Two Republican men waved at him from across the club. Both are gay, he explained. This was also true for the middle-aged Trump appointee, who came over a moment later to catch up. However, the young-looking White House aide, who approached a few minutes later, appeared to think otherwise. Straight as an arrow, Mr. Moran stated as the aide walked away. He laughed and said, "I hang out with my straights just as much as I do with my gays." Mr. Bessent is the most powerful openly gay man in the Trump administration. There are a few others at the Treasury Department. Other A-gays include Tony Fabrizio, the president's long-standing pollster; Trent Morse, a leaving deputy assistant to the president; Richard Grenell, who was assigned in charge of the Kennedy Center; and Jacob Helberg, an undersecretary of state. These are just a few. The tribe includes a large number of lesser-known men. They are overwhelmingly white and have a distinct appearance. Closed, chopped haircuts, window-pane suits, golf shorts. They're not the kind to be telling anyone their pronouns or using the phrase queer. And they aren't the least bit angry that the leader of their party continues to stir a moral panic about transgender individuals. They're gay, but they're still Republicans. Mr. Moran knows a lot of them because he's been on the Trump train, as he described it, from the beginning. In 2015, back when the Republican establishment was still trying to resist Mr. Trump, Mr. Moran said that he and several other gay Republicans he knew became captivated by the brash New Yorker's history of saying wonderful things about gay rights. These men had experienced homophobia from their fellow Republicans at one point or another, so they saw Mr. Trump's ascendance as something new, especially after the 2016 Republican National Convention, when Peter Thiel was given a primetime speaking slot and used it to endorse Mr. Trump, saying, "I am proud to be gay. I am pleased to be a Republican. But most of all, I am pleased to be an American." Mr. Moran was in the front row when that happened. He remembers bracing for boos or a walkout. Instead, there was a resounding applause. He ended up working on all three of Mr. Trump's campaigns. Along the process, he met the various members of the Trump family who all treated him with a respect that couldn't always be expected from Republican power brokers in the past, he said. However, the presence of these men in Washington creates a strange dichotomy. They reside in America's gayest city, which also happens to be the most anti-Trump city. The gay men who work for him here are fully aware that they are in hostile terrain, surrounded by other gay men who regard them as self-deluded traitors or worse. At LGBT clubs across town, and on dating apps, people are either frozen out or confronted about what this president has said and done. He reduced global AIDS relief, HIV vaccine development, and financing for LGBTQ suicide prevention services. He described drag shows as anti-American. His defense secretary said during Pride Month that the Navy vessel named for Harvey Milk would be renamed. Perhaps most concerning for many gay people is the Supreme Court's conservative shift under Mr. Trump. Could same-sex marriage go the way of Roe? It is not out of the question. Gay Trump appointees interviewed for this piece, some of whom claimed they were not permitted to speak on the record, reject such criticism as excessive liberal whining. They claim that the battle for homosexual rights has essentially been won, and that there has never been a Republican as friendly to gays as Donald J. Trump. Aren't they themselves proof that this is true? They ask. Gay men have traditionally held positions of influence in Washington, but they were rarely upfront about their sexuality. The plot of the most renowned novel ever written about this region, Advise and Consent, revolves around a gay senator who is blackmailed. A few years ago, a Washington journalist called James Kirchick released Secret City, The Hidden History of Gay Washington, a huge, comprehensive history of the subject. Being gay was the worst thing you could be in American politics, Mr. Kirchick recalled one recent afternoon while eating lunch at the Bombay Club, the Clinton-era power lunch spot across the street from the White House. He recalled a famous political comment made in 1983 by Edwin Edwards, the Louisiana Democrat who boasted, "The only way I can lose this election is if I'm caught in bed with either a dead girl or a live boy." Mr. Kirchick, 41, stated that one way to assess how much has changed in recent years is to consider what life was like under George W. Bush, the most recent Republican president before Mr. Trump. There were high-ranking gay people in that administration, but they had to be very discreet about it, he told me. It was rough, and there were many outings at the time. Mr. Kirchick has been a prominent critic of President Trump, but he did point out one significant difference. Trump himself is definitely a large part of what's happened. He's clearly at ease around gay people. Prior to his political career, Mr. Trump usually spoke openly about homosexual people in the manner one would expect of a New Yorker in show industry. He once asked a competitor from The Apprentice whether he was a homosexual. When the individual stated that he was, Mr. Trump responded, "I prefer steak. Somebody else enjoys spaghetti. This is why restaurants have menus. It's a wonderful planet." He permitted gay persons to join Mar-a-Lago while other Palm Beach clubs continued to discriminate. According to one of his associates, while Mr. Trump was planning to run for president, he informally stated his position on gay-related policy matters, such as marriage equality, as follows: "I adore the gays. They pay the most for weddings." But then he chose Indiana Governor Mike Pence as his running partner, who has a lengthy history of opposing homosexual rights. And then there was the fact that Mr. Trump's political